German MPs warn that authoritarian states are using disinformation online to influence the federal elections.
Thousands took to the streets of Valencia to demand the resignation of the regional president and his government for their response to devastating flooding which killed hundreds.
US President Donald Trump threatened to expand his trade war on Sunday, turning his attention across the Atlantic. He told reporters import taxes will, quote, definitely happen with the European Union and possibly with the United Kingdom as well.
UK is out of line, but I'm sure that one, I think that one can be worked out. But the European Union it's an atrocity.
While striking a firm tone with the EU, Trump sounded more conciliatory towards Britain and its new Prime Minister, Keir Starmer.
Well, Prime Minister Starmer's been very nice. We've had a couple of meetings. We've had numerous phone calls. We're getting along very well. And we'll see whether or not we can balance out our budget. With the European Union, it's $350 billion deficit. So obviously something's going to take place there.
Trump's comments came just a day after world leaders in Mexico and Canada ordered retaliatory tariffs on American goods and put a strain on recovering EU-UK relations. Starmer is meeting with EU leaders in Brussels on Monday as he aims to, quote, reset relations with the bloc.
Tens of thousands took to the streets of several German cities, protesting against the influence of the far right in migration politics. In the city of Hamburg alone, police said 65,000 people took part in the demonstration. Many protesters focused on Christian Democratic Union candidate for German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who proposed 2 anti-immigration bills to the German parliament last week. Merz, the frontrunner in Germany's election later this month, broke a long-standing pledge to not cooperate with the far-right Alternative for Germany party on Wednesday, when he accepted its votes in order to pass his migration proposal. Since the end of World War II, Germany's established political parties refrained from working with extremist parties. Demonstrators therefore vented anger at the Conservative bloc for breaking this taboo by collaborating with the AfD.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz met with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer in London to discuss bilateral relations, including the relationship between the EU and the UK, while ruling out rejoining the EU trade bloc 5 years after Brexit. Starmer said he wants to forge a closer relationship on defence, energy and trade. According to a Starmer spokesperson, Ukraine and the Middle East were also discussed. Starmer is expected to attend an informal EU summit in Brussels on Monday.
A freed hostage who was released from Gaza captivity in January spoke to supporters in a video message that was screened at a rally in Tel Aviv. Doron Steinbrecher's address came after Hamas freed 3 hostages in the southern Gaza Strip, and Israel released over 180 prisoners in the 4th round of exchanges during the ceasefire deal.
ועם כל כמה שזה לא פשוט, היה לי חשוב לצלם את הסרטון הזה ולהעביר את המסר שלי ואת הבקשה שלי ושיראו אותי ואני בסדר וזה ייקח זמן וזה עוד תהליך וזה לא נגמר בשבוע ובשבועיים אבל אני פה בזכותכם.
The 6-week truce between Israel and Hamas calls for the release of hostages and prisoners from the two sides, as well as the return of Palestinians to northern Gaza and an increase in humanitarian aid to the devastated territory. Thousands took to the streets of Valencia to demand the resignation of the regional president Carlos Mazon and his government for the response to devastating flooding which killed hundreds. Though smaller than the 3 previous protests in the Spanish city, officials say the march drew around 25,000 people. Mazon is under immense pressure after his administration failed to issue flood alerts to citizens' cell phones until hours after the flooding started last October. Mazon is also being criticised for what people perceive as the slow response to the natural disaster. It took days for officials to mobilise emergency responders. Residents who face a long, costly rebuilding process also say the government has been slow to deliver aid. Mazon has defended his handling of the crisis, saying that its magnitude was unforeseeable and that his administration didn't receive sufficient warnings from central authorities.
With less than a month until the German elections, MPs are warning that authoritarian states, including Russia, are using disinformation to stoke instability. The German Foreign Ministry identified the doppelganger group of being behind fake news social media accounts in Germany. CSU politician Thomas Erndl confirmed that the government is aware Russia is trying to influence elections in Europe, especially in Poland and in Germany.
Also Russland versucht es massiv. Es wird sicher Auswirkungen haben. Also der Zulauf zur AfD zum Beispiel, der beruht ja genau auf diesen Mechanismen, Zweifel an unserem Staat, an unseren Institutionen zu säen, zu verbreiten, dass nichts funktioniert, dass Ausländer und Flüchtlinge ein großes Problem sind.
Euronews requested a comment from the Russian embassy in Berlin regarding the allegations, but received no response before publication.
Und dem muss man von den Institutionen etwas entgegensetzen. Wir müssen uns da noch besser aufstellen. Es gibt da erste Versuche, erste Initiativen, auch im Innenministerium. Wir brauchen mehr Geld, damit diese Institutionen dann auch gut ausgestattet sind. Wir müssen vor allem moderne Technik zum Einsatz bringen, künstliche Intelligenz, die hilft in der Analyse dieser Vorgänge. Aber wir brauchen vor allem auch eine Aufklärung und ein Bewusstsein in der Bevölkerung. Und ich glaube, da haben wir noch einen weiten Weg.
Green politician Konstantin von Notz told Euronews that authoritarian states like Russia and China export democratic vulnerabilities through disinformation.
Die Nachrichtendienste sind auch ein wichtiges Mittel, dieser Einflussnahme entgegenzuwirken. Hier brauchen wir zum einen natürlich eine bessere Ausstattung, mehr Personal, aber vor allem auch mehr rechtliche Befugnisse. Und ich glaube, dass das Pendel wieder etwas zurückschwingen muss auf die Betrachtung der Sicherheitsanforderungen und wir deswegen den Diensten auch wieder mehr Rechte einräumen müssen.
Erndl recommends strong European coordination to tackle disinformation, especially if perpetrators are located abroad. Von Notz criticises both the EU and German Interior Ministry for failing to tackle the problem of disinformation adequately.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu traveled from Tel Aviv to the United States ahead of his meeting with US President Donald Trump. He said the two will discuss what he called victory over Hamas, as well as countering Iran and expanding diplomatic relations with Arab countries. The meeting marks Trump's first with a foreign leader since he took office.
I think it's a testimony to the strength of the Israeli-American alliance. It's also a testimony to the strength of our personal friendship.
Netanyahu's arrival to the U.S. comes despite facing an arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court in November last year. The court's member states are required to detain suspects facing a warrant if they set foot on their soil. However, the U.S. and Israel are not part of the court.
Greenland's independence movement believes Trump's recent claims to take over the semi-autonomous Danish state is an opportunity for native Greenlanders to push for full sovereignty. Polling over the last few days show 85% of Greenlanders oppose joining the US. Kupanuk Olsson is Greenland's biggest influencer with 1.6 million followers, many of them in the United States. She says her culture, the Inuit, have survived over 1,000 years of harsh conditions. She's not afraid of Trump's bellicose rhetoric.
I have chosen not to be afraid. I have chosen not to be scared. It's like we just have to figure out how to do the best dance with Trump. How can we make the best deals out of this? It's very colonial mindset when you think when Denmark no longer has Greenland, US will just take it. And it's just like colonizers talking with another colonizer mindset. It's like, we are human beings.
So while Greenlanders say they don't want to be part of the United States, it doesn't necessarily mean that they want to be closer to Denmark either. Stronger autonomy and self-determination for the indigenous Inuit is something that many people are calling for, even independence, all of it in varying degrees.
I think what Greenland is really going for is self-independence in terms of government and all that. So it's really great that Denmark supports Greenland in terms of financial and economically. But I can see why the US would be interested, because they're obviously very much interested in the geopolitical positioning that Greenland is in, and all the materials that they can acquire in terms of getting better military equipment and such.
Those who want independence believe doing a deal with the US while also having good relations with Denmark and Europe is the best way forward.
You have to admit that he has done a lot of good for our independence cause.
In what way?
Well, whenever Trump is not in office, people don't care about Greenland. You're here for a reason. So we get the opportunity to explain what is going on in Greenland and trying to explain that we're not isolationists. We want to work with the rest of the world, not just Denmark.
The same polling says 84% of Greenlanders want their homeland to be independent from Denmark, yet half of that only if it doesn't have a negative impact on their standard of living. Shona Murray, Euronews, Nuuk, Greenland.